We are going live.
We have gone live.
We have gone live. That's
We're
right.
the most live.
We're the most lives.
We are 100% more live than we were about 17 seconds ago.
17 seconds ago. But as far as my clock says, we were late because it said showtime. It tells me it's showtime.
Somebody has a sniffle. So therefore, we were late.
Oh, let's blame it on the guest.
Yeah, it's my fault.
Yeah.
My fault.
Well, anyway, it is your fault, but we'll
Things
get into
usually
that in
are.
a second. What'd you do?
So good. There's no audio on the intro. It's great.
Okay, should we do it again, but in silence?
No, but I think that's so awesome.
That's the
No,
best thing that's ever happened. It
That's
just
it might be my now I want to go fix it though.
okay. So don't fix it now. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's do it again. But
It's
you guys
so good.
imagine there's music. Okay,
Let
We're
us
gonna do
be
this again.
solemn. We shall be solemn for this.
It's a low budget show, so allow us to be low budget. Okay, we're gonna do this
Imagine,
again.
yeah.
Okay, imagine.
Imagine you're an audio engineer and you're in charge of making this intro, and you somehow exported it with no music.
Okay, ready? Here we go.
It's fine.
One more time. Take two. No audio. Oh wow,
It's
you
so good.
failed.
It's so good. I love it so much right now.
Gabriel, you had one job.
I had 17 jobs.
Yeah, but you're down to one now.
Yeah. But I've absolutely failed at that one somehow. That's
Oh man,
fantastic.
that was so good. And because of that,
I love
I got something special for you, my friend.
I'm so happy.
Oh, hey, Serge, throw us a riff.
Sure.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gabe. Happy birthday to Gabe. And many more, yeah.
That's so rad.
Happy birthday, Gabe! Thanks for
Thank you,
joining the
sir.
show.
That was,
And as a
that was
special
great.
guest to our special guest, we brought Tyler Robertson back on the show.
Hello.
Gosh,
It's not my
this-
birthday, but I would like a Surge song. Where's my Surge song?
Okay, well, your Surge song. We'll definitely get you a Surge song. That's so
All right.
good. Lindsay could not make the show, and Andy Lund, because they're headed to New York City for something that I cannot talk about.
They planned this trip for when I was going to be on
They did,
because Lindsay just saw me like
correct.
5 seconds ago.
Right. And so she said, you know what? And
Meh.
Andy said to me, he said, "Hey, do you want an intro?" And I said, "I think I'm gonna let Sergio do the intro tonight." So that's the intro. We're not gonna have an Andy Lund song, but Andy wishes he could be here because he loves this subject. We
I-
are talking what?
I want to address the intro. I had this great idea. I had this great idea today to be clever, which is always my downfall. I took the intro music and you were supposed to hear the first part of like the OG, the regular intro music, and then it was gonna like smash into I Know What Love Is, but something went awry there.
You know, it's amazing is you actually sent me a clip of the clip,
I sent you like a phone video to show you how cool it was.
and then
and
you
then-
exported it without the audio.
Yeah.
So, okay, first thing, Gabriel O'Brien is our guest. He's an audio engineer, cinematographer, and a guitar nerd. You missed audio engineer school today.
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
we'll still give you a gold star because it's your birthday, and we're excited to have you here. So
Thank you.
welcome back to the show, Gabriel. Tonight's show is going to be fantastic. Getting pro quality sound from your Taylor ES2 pickup. We're going to dive into this discussion pretty quickly, but of course we have a couple of segments up front. You guys know the deal. We're going to get into these segments, but I got to ask how everybody is. Everybody in the feed, how are you guys doing? Gabe, how are you doing, man? It's been like 25 minutes since we last spoke.
I know. Yeah, I'm great. I just got back from Detroit where I saw Jay in person, and then New York where I saw Mike and Andy Powers, and then Philly where I saw Jay again and Lindsay, and doing very well. Yeah, I was supposed to be on a couple weeks ago, but regrettably got sick and was down and out for a little bit. But I'm great. Having a good day. Had a nice dinner with the wife and kids earlier, and
You
just
ate
having
some
fun.
cheese curds?
Cheese curds
Oh,
are a thing
yeah.
here. Yeah.
The
See?
vegan in the corner is like,
Yeah.
eh?
Tyler knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
Fried cheese curds.
I grew up in the land of cheese curds.
There you go.
They're a staple food.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Mhm.
Highly recommend.
All right, then. Okay, Tyler, how have you been, man? It's busy. We pass. We work in different buildings. You're busy.
Yep.
I'm busy. But how have you been, man?
Saw you physically. I've been all right. I've been very busy. I kind of wear 3, 4, 17 hats here. We have a bunch of new things that we're working on that, of course, I probably can't talk about, but all exciting that hopefully will be unveiled throughout the year. For people that don't know, I'm an engineer here at R&D. But in new news, I just got the world's whitest jean jacket. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm gonna actually
Wow.
I'm gonna put it on because I'm in the R&D room and it's climate controlled, so it's actually kind of cold here right now.
This is true. It is climate controlled in that room. So you could peek really closely and see all this stuff that they're working on. You can't really tell what it is, but
Well, right behind Tyler, behind his left shoulder is the new cat box that we're working on for pets. That's that one right there. That's part of a.
Over his
cat
other
tree.
shoulder is the new filing cabinet. We're making Taylor filing cabinets now.
Yeah, we are.
I'm getting cat box cereal number 1. I'm going to try that out with Henry,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's going to be great.
All right.
Yeah,
We got Mike. How are you doing, bud?
I'm pleased as punch to be back again. All is well in the world of cat boxes and black filing cabinets. So it's great.
Looks like you got a heck of a record collection over there. Maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. Okay.
That's like a tenth of what it is.
I'm super stoked to do the show tonight. Before we get really started, I'm wearing this hat as a dedication to a San Diego music and skateboarding legend that we lost this past week. He passed away doing what he loves to do, and that is skateboarding, which is crazy in itself. But a good friend of ours, Otis, he went by Otis Bartholomew. He was special to everybody at San Diego. In San Diego, you couldn't go to a show or live show here without Otis being there. He never had to buy a ticket. He always walked in the back door. He was sitting in everybody's green room when you walked in. We work out of a studio called Singing Serpent in the Kensington neighborhood of San Diego. And just from time to time, we'll be filming content over there and will show up. And he was just a very, very special person for us in San Diego. I was crushed to learn of his passing, but everybody in San Diego, when I say everybody, I mean everybody. He was for sure the unofficial mayor of San Diego, and it's taken me quite a while to be able to say these words out loud. But we, as Taylor Guitars, want to give a special nod and send positive vibes and prayers and whatever you send to O's family and his loved ones and all of his friends in San Diego. We lost a good one. All right. Now that that's out of the way, we'll get back to having a good time on this show.
Raise a glass to O, everybody. If you've got him, Paul Tobias, I know you do.
There you go. Raise a glass to O, everybody. Thank you.
Huge legend.
Huge legend. I mean, from everybody from Tony Hawk to Steve Caballero to every musician I can even imagine has posted something about O this week. So we love him, and we're gonna miss him terribly. Anyway, back to the show. Feed reminder. Let's keep it Let's keep it clean. This is a touchy subject, which is going to be, this is why I'm so excited about this show. But before we get started, a reminder, we have Evan's question at the end. So there's some trivia. Got a nice little prize pack for you. We got zero hate. Zero hate this week. But what I have seen is a trend. And that is a trend of very, very kind emails from people. And we got one this week, and I'm going to leave this person unnamed, just out of respect. But we got the kindest email, and I sent it around to a whole group of us. Just so you know, even though this is a very low budget show, it does take a village to make this thing happen. I mean, Gabe helps produce it from Ohio. Happy birthday, Gabe, by the way. Thanks for joining on your birthday. And thanks to your family for letting us have you tonight. This is great. I'm pretty stoked on this.
They don't miss me. It's fine.
It's all right. It's okay. Anyway, but we haven't gotten any hate. We have gotten a lot of appreciation for the show. So we wanted to take a moment to send that appreciation and love back to you guys. Thank you for joining us every single week. This is fantastic. All right. No hate.
Yeah. Our comment section is already like super active, and I'm really pumped about that.
So am I. But let's do a segment real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do a segment. And you know what? Just to break the monotony of this thing, I'm going to roll a segment clip. You know what time it is. What are you listening to? Yeah, Gabe, let's start with you. What have you been listening to lately?
I don't often get to see the really cheesy clips that I make when I'm usually doing stuff in the back end and not live watching the show. So that's extra fun. What am I listening to today? I've been on a bit of so I was talking with a friend about music earlier today. So I've been on a little bit of like a Glenn Hansard swell season kick. Yeah. Just like a lot of kind of chill, low-key singer-songwriter vibe stuff that I was recommending earlier and talking about. So a lot of like Josh Ritter, Glenn Hansard, stuff like that. I'm always listening to music because I work on it like on the professional side. So some cool stuff, some cool artist stuff lately that you'll see in a few days that I can't talk about yet. But there are things coming that I've been working on that I'm really pumped about too. Some really cool artist content. So that's been, I've just been hearing that a lot lately. But today specifically, a lot of like Glenn Hansard, Josh Ritter, Tom Petty's "She's the One." I was spinning that earlier, which is an album people sleep on.
I love that. Tom Petty, come on, one of the greatest American songwriters of all time.
And that record is so good.
It is good. Hey, Glenn, I wanted to touch on this. Yeah. So this is a talk show. We talk a lot. So we understand that it's not for everybody, but we have some segments up front, and then we roll into the nitty-gritty of the show. Tyler Robertson, what have you been listening to?
I don't know if you want me to answer that truthfully.
Yes.
Okay. I just got a new record from The Annihilated in the UK. That's mixed by Canada's Jonah Falco, who's mixed my spouse's records, and basically anything Jonah touches is gold. It's a family-friendly show, so I won't mention what band he's usually in.
I know.
It starts with F. Yeah. And then beyond that, I was listening to Meatwave. I just got their tape. A friend of mine gave it to me from Chicago. They're a hot young outfit, really cool band.
Hot young outfit.
Yeah.
That's another good band name, right?
It's
there.
like,
That's
yeah,
another good band name.
That's a band name right there. That jacket should just be a band, and its name is Hot Young Outfit.
Yeah, it's glare. I can't turn down. Maybe if I turn my screen brightness down, it'll.
No, it's great. You need to come on a video shoot, and we can just like set white balance off that jacket. It'll be great.
Yeah, I love it. Mike Venezia, what have you been
Actually,
listening to?
I was thinking we should do a movie night and just project it on Tyler's jacket. That would be.
I wore it to work to get it dirty. It was
So
You
good.
got to break it in somehow.
yeah.
I was listening to the Violent Aspects all week. No, I'm kidding. That's another band name we came up with from a couple of episodes ago. The Violent Aspects. Actually, as everybody knows, that regular watchers, I'm a vinyl junkie, and it's a store I shop at too. Hey, what do you know? And I picked up, tripped and fell, and found a great deal on the Nirvana Nevermind box set.
What?
Yeah.
Nice.
What? Okay, what's a great deal and what pressing?
Well, it's the box set, so I think there was only one pressing of the box set.
I thought there were
It must
two.
have been very pressing because he bought it.
Hey,
there were two.
Hey,
All right.
Rich Casciato, that was for you.
at least it was cheap. It was there. It started with a 1. It was less than 150 actually.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. So what happened was I bought it secondhand, unopened. Somebody had got this box set or was gifted the box set,
Yeah.
never listened to it, sold it to a store who then gave a really ridiculous price to me. So I took, and look, I like Nirvana. I didn't think I needed 8 albums. It's an 8 LP box set of Nevermind, essentially. But the concert albums that are in there are phenomenal, well recorded, and really showing this band as they were, growing, and then later on as they had achieved peak popularity,
Yeah.
what kind of attitude and determination they had in their shows. So I do have to say that it was a worthy purchase and definitely worth a listen. At least the streaming portions of it on, if you don't want to go out and buy it, I think you could stream it on Apple Music or Spotify or something like that.
That's great.
Yep.
All right, I got 3. We've been yelled at like 4 times.
So good.
Welcome to
Wait,
the
here-
show. If you're new,
Bob,
welcome.
it's a talk show. We're gonna get there.
We got you. We got you.
We got you, buddy. I
It'll
promise.
be covered.
exciting.
Everything will be, all the answers will be given.
All the answers. We're
All
gonna
will
get
be
there.
revealed.
All right, so we got this right. A new local project that's kind of like this interesting, weird, nerdy super group, a band called Telephone Friends. They dropped their first single. So Aaron, remember Aaron who played drums live on the I Know What Love Is thing, Gabe? The
Yeah, yeah.
performance, the NAMM performance.
Yes.
Aaron plays in this band. It's phenomenal.
Awesome.
Oddly enough, the new Paramore record is, I was a sleeper on Paramore for quite a while. And then I started watching some live stuff and I'm like, I really slept on this. The new Paramore record rules. Exactly.
I'll give it to you. I haven't listened to it.
The same thing I said. And I dove in and I'm like, holy smokes. Like, incredible live performances, and then their new record smokes, so it's good. And then a local California band called Thrice redid a record they did 20 years ago called The Artist in the Ambulance, and they redid it so that they could own their masters. It's a trick that you can do. We saw Taylor Swift do it this year, and it is spectacular. The new version of this record is just spectacular. Yay.
Nice.
I love when people re-release something or release like live versions of things and they're better. Like they've gotten better as they've gotten older, and they've I love that so much.
Totally.
All right, you guys want to get to the show? We got some people waiting.
Yeah. There's
right.
a
There's,
All right,
at least
so
4, there's at least 4 people watching.
there's
right
at
now,
least
so.
4 people.
There's at least 4 people watching. So we're going to dive into ES2. And we know that a lot of you are on the Taylor Guitars Owners Group on Facebook. We know that you've seen Gabriel defend the ES2, discuss the ES2. He works with the ES2 as a regular thing. It was the perfect person to bring on the show along with Tyler, so that we can talk about getting the best out of your ES2. And there's more than just plugging it in and going for it, okay? Before we start the conversation, I want to remind people a couple of things. This show is about how to get the most out of your ES2, but please understand, we aren't telling you to love it. We understand if you hate it, but what we're trying to do is let everybody know tone is subjective, sound is subjective, right? We're hoping to demonstrate that each of us have different musical needs, and guitar pickups and electronics are tools that are in our tool belt, okay? Different tools. So you might even have people on this little Foursquare who don't really love the ES2, and that's okay. All right. So I just wanted to bring that up. We understand we all have different opinions, guitars, pickups, amps, mics, etc. That's okay. So this isn't a time to get really riled up in the feed. It's a time to try and listen to people who, Gabe, who uses the ES2 on the regular. I mix the ES2 every single week live. Tyler helps innovate different versions of the ES2. He's been along for the ride on the technical side. And then Mike, who's been here, who uses the ES2, who sells the ES2. So I thought it was a really good idea to have everybody, this group of people on the show. All right, you guys ready for this one?
I'm super pumped. I'm super pumped about having Tyler here. Actually, Tyler is in our Taylor group, and we were talking earlier about amp nerd stuff, and he like totally schooled me and like taught me like it's important.
No, it was a good discussion.
It was great,
yeah,
and it's so
yeah.
important to be open to learning new things, and it's so important to know that you don't know everything. I don't know everything. The reason I know what I know is because I talk to smart people, and so I got to learn stuff from Tyler today that I didn't like. I kind of had my own idea going, and it was wrong, and like that's really important. It's really important to go, oh, okay, I just totally got turned around on this. Like,
well, and it's good. It's good too, because then you bring things up, then I have to go like, oh shoot, wait, was I sure of that? I don't wait. Yeah, and you reevaluate your positions on things, and that's how people.
So I'm gonna start. I'm just gonna throw it out there before we get going in this. I want to admit. I want to come clean. I want to communicate to you my original feelings. I had a hard time with the ES2, a really hard time in the beginning. The ES1, I had a hard time with it. And Gabe and I were talking about it the other day. That's because when the ES1 came out, the internet was in its infancy, and we didn't really have a way to communicate what it did or didn't do. That was a really good point right there. Had I learned stuff about it, I probably would have a different feeling. So I came into this whole conversation of this pickup with closed doors, with blinders on. Like, just don't talk to me, Gabe, right? And then I sat down and I learned from Gabe certain things about it, what it is, what it isn't. I've talked to people like Terry Myers, who has been along for that ride. I've talked to Andy Powers, who has some interesting feelings and opinions. Andy Lund, Mike Venezia, and Tyler. I mean, a ton of people have helped push me in this different direction. And now, like I said, I mix the thing pretty much every week, and I love it now, but I didn't. So I hope you guys enjoy this. So Gabe, I invited you to the show because I just thought you were the right person. I mean, really, people see you speak about this thing, and often it looks like you might be in defense of it. So I'd like you to set up what we're trying to do here. And then a cool thing is we have some really cool demo videos that we're going to go through so that you guys can hear different things about different pickups. So we're excited. Go for it, Gabe.
I think a lot of what happens is, as you said earlier, when the ES1 came out, the internet was kind of a baby, right? It was like 2001. Am I right about that, Mike? Is that about right? I know that my 2001 guitar has the ES1,
the rollout was,
or maybe
progressive,
it was like
starting in 2001.
My 2005 has it in it for sure. So there were a lot of things that people didn't understand about that pickup. And to be honest, back then I worked in a guitar shop. I was a Taylor dealer and tech for a long time. Mike was one of my Taylor DSMs, and which is how I got to know him and become friends with him. So there were things that dealers were kind of encouraged to discuss with customers, but honestly, and I'll say this from the dealer side, did a super poor job of. That's just fact. Dealers did a super poor job of telling people certain things about it. And I know that from the experience of things like being in the Taylor owners group, where there are still people that I talk to on the regular who have the ES1 who don't know that it's a balanced output. And it's 20 years later almost, for some of these guitars, or is 20 years later for some of these guitars. So the same thing is kind of, for me, true of the ES2. When the ES2 came out, there wasn't a lot of like the ES2 in 3D.
So good.
That's
So good.
There wasn't a lot of material to explain what it did. It kind of came out there, but Taylor wasn't really doing a lot of like educational video stuff then. And again, YouTube was a thing, but it was mostly cat videos. So a lot of what I try to do is give people some kind of live sound basics, some live sound 101. Like, here's how you set up a channel for literally anything. And kind of walk people through some best practices. Not so much to defend something and say you have to like this or it has to be the right thing for you, but hey, if this is what you have, this is how you can get the best out of it, and or the way to approach it to try and get the best out of it, and then kind of try to help people troubleshoot if there are things going on that they're not happy with. I think there are so many different kinds of pickup systems, and people like them for a variety of reasons and for a variety of uses, and they're all correct. If you have something that works for you, that's great. For me, it happens to be one of the ones I like the best. There are others I like a lot too, though. So
I love it. So we're gonna dive in. I think it's good. So I work on our artist relations team. So often we have an artist relations fella that works out of Nashville, and he was in a meeting once, and we were discussing pickups. We were discussing, for artists, just to be clear with you, some people have what they like to use, right? So we change the pickup to whatever they want. I've gotten a lot of requests lately for LR Bags, Element, Fishman makes a couple of pickups that people are using. The Aura, I think, is one that has been coming in lately. Sound hole pickups, the Seymour Duncan Mag Mic has been really popular. I know when we first started working with Ben Harper, he went to, LR Bag's Anthem. Trey Hensley plays the Anthem in his 717. Ben Harper used to be a real serious Fishman guy, and recently he started using Mag Mic, the Seymour Duncan Mag Mic sound hole pickup, because that's what he uses in all of his Weisenborns and lap steels and all sorts of different instruments, right? So it makes sense for his front of house guy to mix the same thing. So some of the really great concept, Mike, I want to ask you a question. You sell the ES2. You use the ES2. What do you like about it, and what don't you like about it? Be real with us.
I like the fact that if you know about the system and how it works, you can dial in virtually whatever sound you need with minimal effort. The biggest thing that I don't like about it is not from my personal usage, because obviously I work at Taylor. I have the knowledge base to kind of, take from the people that created it, and could tell me how to use it, but my biggest issue is that it's a system where people automatically go to the dime. All right. Just like an electric guitar, but it's not, it's an acoustic guitar. And when the minute they do that and they think it doesn't sound good, they give up on it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and dime by dime,
I mean, just take all those knobs and turn them all maxed out, right? They dime it, just like you would dime an amp. Yeah, everything at 10. That's what that means. Slang for
we
diming.
Actually had, I want to say, I'll say his name, Daniel Donato.
Yeah, he won't mind.
He's a chicken picker, right? He's a tele picker, and that's what you do with a Telecaster. You dime it. And you pick, right? You chicken pick. And he played our NAMM booth one year, and he dimed his ES2, and I'm looking up there, and we were all kind of like, why does that sound like trash? Well, he dimed it. That's why it sounded like trash. Actually, it's a good moment to run this little clip. So if you guys are not familiar, what I can get it, Gabe. What those knobs do, we actually have a little clip. It might be there's no audio on this, or did you mess that up too?
There's not supposed to be any audio on it.
All right, here.
It was just to show the thing.
Okay, we're gonna roll this real quick. But we're not muted, so we can talk.
Yeah, because there's
these are the 3 knobs, and we made this little piece of content for you.
See,
These
now
are
that's
what the 3 knobs do.
That's what the 3 knobs do, and that is what I like about the system, but is most misunderstood about the system is what it says about treble and bass. It's cut and boost. It's both.
Let me roll that again for anybody who just missed it. All right, I'm gonna roll that again. By the way, the shot is great, Gabe.
Thank you. It's shot in my studio. A14 CE, great guitar.
I'm just going to say, Jay, too, that right off the bat, people need to remember that it is a preamp, and it's even though there's preamps with passive EQ in the preamp, these are active controls. So that's a big deal. Like if you took an active pickup, like an EMG, and you compare it to a Telecaster pickup, like it's a completely different animal. So you can't approach the controls the same way. And I know people are like, okay, how do we make it sound good? We'll get there. Yeah.
And actually I can attest exactly to what Tyler's saying, because this Telecaster right behind me, that has the EMG-T pickups in it, which are EMG Tele pickups.
Yeah.
If I took just a Fender Tele and I had the stock pickups in it, the passive pickups, they're not going to respond the same way. Same guitar, same style of guitar, but the response is different based on how you treat that pickup system. So,
all right. So I think we should go right into it, Gabe. I'm going to let you drive and choose set up the videos that we've done. So Philip, I hear your question. So how do we get the most out of our ES2? The first thing we want to do is some comparisons. Gabe did a really good job with creating some video content with the same guitar. One that's going to be under a microphone or behind a microphone or in front of a microphone so that you can hear it. One's going to be under saddle pickup. We're going to leave it unnamed. And then one is the ES2. So Gabe, take it from there, kind of set it up, and then play the videos at will.
Sure. One of the things I did a while back was to go down to Nashville with Devin Malone, who works in Nashville for Taylor. And Devin's a great session player, deals with artists a lot, talks to a lot of artists, and it does a great job of kind of expressing the value of the ES2, I think. He'll say that the ES2 sounds like the guitar and that pickups sound like pickups. And so what we wanted to do was kind of just capture different flavors of things so we can hear the differences in them. That's all. That's the whole idea behind it.
All right. You want to play the videos? You set up which video you're playing first, and then
I'm not going to say what's what.
Okay.
If that's okay.
Go ahead.
I'm just going to play one, and then you guys tell me what you're hearing, because you see the same stuff in every shot. It's just a single shot, and everything's going to be covered. One of the things I do in these, though, is I actually overlay. I took an EQ, not controlling the EQ in any way, but just an EQ to show you the frequency response on screen. So it'll actually show you what's going on. You can actually visibly see the frequencies, and I just did a screen grab and overlaid it on these. So as I play each one, you'll be able to see that and kind of visually compare them too. For some people, that helps. Okay.
That was awesome.
So I'm going to dive right in and play the next one. And then I'll play the third one. And you can tell me what you think is what. And we'll see who guesses right. And before we jump into this third one, I'm just going to remind everybody, I'm seeing like so many questions coming on the feed, and my instinct is to always jump and answer them. I promise we'll have lots of time for questions, and I will try to answer. We will try to answer as much as we can. The third clip. Ken asked in the comments, I'm not an engineer, please explain the graphics. I just want to point out that all the graphics is a visual representation of the frequency response of what's happening. So you're visually seeing the frequencies of the pickup. Anyone want to venture a guess as to what's what?
I want to give it a shot.
Do it.
I wrote down my answers. I want to see how close I am after.
So good.
So they're written down.
Yeah. So generally speaking, because I don't know exactly what models of things you used. All right.
So we're going to go mic, under saddle, ES2.
Actually, that's exactly what I would have said in order for those 3 videos.
Okay, Tyler.
I said I thought there was 3 pickups, but I was like, is it maybe a mic? And I thought there was maybe bags, but I wasn't sure about that one. So
I think it's mic, under saddle, ES2, just like Mike.
Jay and Mike are both correct. Yeah, it's the Shure SM81 microphone was the first video.
Yep.
So that's all I did for these clips for the record is level match them so that everything is the same output level. So yeah, we have the Shure SM81, which is like a super common studio mic to record guitar, under saddle pickup, and then the ES2. So you can hear pretty clear differences. If you don't mind, I want to play back the clips. I'm trying to decide if I want to play back all 3 clips again or just play back 2 of them. Jay, get a rule.
No, play all 3.
I want to play all 3 of them. So
absolutely.
I'm going to play the first one back, which is the microphone, and I want you to listen to that, and then I want you to listen to the other 2 in relation to the first one. Let's do that. All right, so now that you've heard that and you've seen that graphic of the frequency response again, listen to the under saddle pickup and also keep an eye on the graphic of showing you the frequency response of what it's doing and compare that visually and sonically with what you heard and saw from the microphone. And same thing with the third one. I love this comment, and I want to highlight it.
I was waiting for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is so true, and I say
Yeah.
this all
Yeah.
the time. In fact, a really good friend, I was talking to Kenny Etches in today, who does a lot of product work and a lot of recording work, and he was asking about getting a microphone for recording acoustic guitar. And I was talking about this, and this is something I've said a million times publicly. It matters so much more where you put the microphone than what the microphone is.
That is true.
It's huge. And one of the things we've tried to do over the last 5 or 6 years that I've worked with Taylor is kind of standardize the way acoustic guitars kind of get mic'd. So in a lot of videos, you'll see, if you pay attention, anything kind of that, since I kind of started working with Taylor, most of the time the microphone is in a very similar location, and it's pretty well standardized now. And is a pretty good way of capturing things. So now that you guys have heard those 3 things back to back, what do you feel about the sound of the undersaddle pickup and the ES2 compared to the microphone?
I think it would be interesting. I can tell you how I feel, really. Okay. I like recording. I'm a recording. I like the idea of putting microphones in front of anything and recording it and making a noise out of it. It's just spectacular to me. It's a really joyful process. So like Gabe said, it's where the microphone. Of course, a lot of people said, I like the first one the best. Well, Andy Powers and I really agree that the best acoustic guitar pickup would be if you could have a vortex or some sort of shell go around you in a live setting with a microphone in front
A
of
whisper room on stage would
a
be
whisper
great.
room on stage would be magical. So I think that, I love the comparison, but really the verses are under saddle versus ES2. I feel, to my ears right now, that the ES2 was a better sounding result. But I think that I'd like to hear what Mike and Tyler have to say. And I love all the comments in the feed, so keep going. But I would like to maybe help Gabe, if you could help us, or Tyler, if you could help us understand what is an undersaddle pickup and what it's doing, and how the ES2 works.
Yeah, you want me to tackle that?
You tackle it.
Yeah.
All right.
Do it.
You're the Canadian.
Yeah. Make the Canadian do the work. It costs less, the exchange.
And you'll be nice. You'll be much nicer about it too.
Yeah, I'll try. It depends. So yeah, the undersaddle pickup, it's there's like anything else, undersaddle pickup is a generic term for a type of pickup, and there's a lot of construction techniques that go into an undersaddle pickup as well. But they generally follow the same category, where you have a piezo element or a series of elements underneath the saddle, literally. And do I have a visual aid? I kind of do. A visual aid that I can show on camera. Well, let me just block out the parts. So here, whatever. Here's a better one. Here's the saddle blank. So the undersaddle pickup will go right under the saddle. I mean, like it sounds. Now, that'll be a series of elements or a single element across the whole base of the saddle. It's basically squashed underneath that saddle, and then the force of the strings on the saddle are providing that tension onto that pickup. And piezo material will need that tension to develop a sound. You can the preloading essentially on the element will affect the nature of the sound. So you're having the tension of the strings providing that preloading on the piezo element. So you're getting the string vibrations affecting force on the saddle, downwards onto the piezo element, but also it's inside that's captured in the bridge. So you're getting the acoustic body vibrating, and all that force and motion gets translated into voltage, which then goes to a preamp and out. Now, the ES2 is on the back of the saddle, so it's going this direction. So you're getting some force from the strings, rocking the saddle back and forth, but then you also have the 3 screws on the top of the ES2. I've got my guitar right here. Hopefully everyone who's in there knows. It might be hard to see, but there's the pickup has 3 posts on it, and there's 3 set screws, and those set screws are providing the preloading on the piezo element. The construction of the ES2 housing also goes into the nature of the sound. It's made more like a microphone, whereas an under saddle pickup is made more like a sensor. So those are the 2 big differences between a under the saddle and ES2, which is beside the saddle or behind the saddle. One is constructed like a piezo microphone, and the other is constructed like a piezo sensor.
Interesting. Okay.
I have a quick
that
thing
was nerdy.
Yeah, and
That
to go
was nerdy.
to go a little nerdier.
Oh,
Let's do it. Yeah.
One of the things that I talk about a lot, Tyler, and maybe you can kind of get into this a little bit more from the engineering side, is that the way under saddle pickups work is you have a lot of downward pressure pushing down on them, and that's how they're sensing string vibration. They're in fact being crushed by the downward pressure of the strings, whereas the ES2 is sensing, the movement more, and there's a lot less pressure, a lot lower. I wanted to call it PSI, but there's much less pressure on the ES2, and that makes it's much more sensitive, and it's to me it's much more reflective of what's going on.
Yeah, it's both that and then the geometry of the piezo element in the pickup itself. We have a pretty thick element and thick and hard elements. So the sensitivity there is also translated. We should probably mention this several times too, that that tension that's set up, the string tension of an undersaddle versus the ES2 should be set to a specific pressure, like you said, PSI. We actually have a spec for that we set at the factory with a torque wrench, and it's set to 7-inch ounces. So if someone has a torque wrench, ideally a calibrated torque wrench, they should try setting it to 7-inch ounces if they have issues with their ES2 pickup.
that's interesting.
Hey, if I could just give for the automotive nerds that are out there, you know what this is when we're talking about torque wrenches and the amount of pressure. But when you talk about it from an automotive perspective, you talk about it in foot-pounds.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're talking about how little pressure there is, we're talking about in inch ounces. Okay. So
yes.
That's important to note. What you don't want to do is, take an Allen key and just like crank it as much as possible, because then you just wind up with the same thing you heard in the second clip, which is that kind of quacky nature that can happen after you're crushing those, piezo crystals.
Yeah, 7-inch ounces occurs very little after it's snug. So oftentimes people just say back it off and then just snug it up against the bridge, because without an actual sensitive torque wrench, that's going to be your best bet. And
So-
if you'll sorry, Gabe.
No, go ahead. Go. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, you can easily strip the threads on the pickup if you start just going at it with an Allen wrench.
So what would be the difference in pressure, like in numbers, between the downward pressure of an under saddle pickup being squashed under that saddle and the pressure an ES2 is sensing? Even a rough estimate.
Time
Yeah.
out. Mom, I told you this show is going to get nerdy. I had to prepare my
Hi,
mother
Nancy.
for this show, by the way. Okay.
I got
keep
to
going.
meet
Sorry.
Nancy a couple of weeks ago, everybody. I actually stayed at her house. It was
Yeah.
a delight. She's fantastic.
Jay's
Okay.
mom.
See?
I got to meet
Jay's
Jay's mom.
Wow.
Yeah.
we
Close
should
to
ask-
Canada.
Yeah, right. We should ask Nancy, because I don't know off the top of my head how much downward pressure the strings are applying. I should know that. but it's a lot if it's enough to pull a neck. Acoustic guitars need a neck reset. That's from string tension. So
That's a good question.
As I've kind of always understood it, and again, I could be wrong, and I'm very open to being wrong about is it's north of 100 pounds of pressure.
That sounds about right. For reference, when I write buffing programs, the robots are buffing guitar tops at like 100 pounds on a guitar top, and the top is fine.
And whereas the ES2 is about how many pounds of
7-inch ounces.
Okay, so the sensitivity with which you're actually picking up the guitar is so much higher because it takes so much less pressure for that pickup to even work. So you're getting so much more guitar and so much, I would say, so much more of the player.
Yeah, because an undersaddle pickup is also captured between the bridge and the saddle. So there's only so much movement it can have, whereas the ES2 is the element itself is against the set screw, but it is in a housing. So it does allow some more vibration there.
I saw it. I already saw it.
You see what Ken wrote?
Yeah.
We love you, Ken.
Tell us what to do. Just tell us what to do.
All right. So good.
islands
Rich
in the
Casciato.
stream.
Rich Casciato's in here. So he said per hostler, IRS 60 pounds on a.
Oh, there we go. Thanks, Rich. That's excellent.
Thanks, Rich.
That's
Rich
per David Hostler.
Per David Hostler.
Who would know?
Yeah,
if you don't know who David Hostler is, he
kind
would
of
know.
created it.
Yeah, he created it. So that's okay. That's fantastic. I think that we should move along and maybe get into some other content, because I do want to get into some theory about dialing this thing in.
Yeah. Would you rather do Tonewoods, Jay?
I think let's do Fingerstyle, and then let's do Tonewoods.
We just lost Tyler.
Well, he'd had enough. He'd had enough and was like, I don't want to hear about Tonewoods.
He was like, I'm going to go look stuff up right now.
Where'd he go?
He was back. Oh, there he is.
I hit log in so I could go to the comments, and I've been avoiding it this whole time because I'm like, it's going to kick me off, and sure it did. So no commenting for me.
All right.
Hey.
So
there's been times where this thing breaks. It's a low budget talk show.
We've seen it happen, and it's been fun at times. The early shows are pretty treacherous. So to set this up, this is just a string out of fingerstyle playthroughs of various guitars with various pickups.
Hey, before you start, do you see Rich's question?
Did I use a DI on the ES2? Yes. I use a DI on both types of pickups, the same DI. And I set input gain to the same settings.
Okay, go for it.
Okay.
You had to show off that annoying V-class bracing at the end, huh?
Yeah. I love that. I love
had to show it off.
Yeah, I love the ring there.
It just never shuts up. May I ask, did you switch guitars Meaning, was that all the same model? Maybe a different finish, but did you have a different actual model in there too?
Yes.
Haha.
There are 2 different models. There are 4 guitars total in that clip. There are 2 separate models. So two of each thing with the same pickup.
And I don't know, by the way, I don't know the clips. So he has them mysteriously named. I can't cheat. It's like video 1, video 2, video 3. So that's why I would have just started playing stuff. But may I guess?
Yeah.
Okay. Man, I forgot already. I should have written them down like Tyler. He's the engineer in the room.
Yeah, but I got it wrong. I wasn't paying attention.
Okay.
He was
okay.
Well, you were going deep though. You were like trying to guess brands of pickups.
Yeah.
Like you went deep on it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to say the first one was ES2. The second one was an undersaddle. The third one was a mic. The fourth one was an undersaddle. Did I get that right? I'm missing
No.
the one guitar had a natural top. That was a 517, wasn't it? Was it?
Do you want me to tell you?
Am I
what
bailing on this? Okay, Mike, your turn. You
Can
go.
we I didn't write anything down.
I'm just going to throw this in here. Nothing is a microphone.
Yeah. That
This is
was
pickups.
definite. The first,
I was trying to get some mic in there.
I think it went undersaddle, ES2 undersaddle.
Yeah.
Tyler?
I wasn't paying enough attention. I was looking at the room that the guy was playing in, and I was texting my spouse, so I got disqualified.
In both cases, we had undersaddle ES2, undersaddle ES2.
Oh, okay.
Just
Yeah,
to,
I would.
to
I
break
would.
up
I
what you
didn't
were
write
doing.
anything down, and I didn't
That's
make
okay.
mental notes. The first 2 I paid attention to, and then I started texting my invisible spouse.
Okay.
I'm not texting anyone.
Okay. So let's do one more. Let's do the Tonewoods clip.
Okay.
So set this one up.
So to set this one up, this is to highlight the. This is to set up a whole point that I really want to talk about, that I love to talk about. So this is just so you can hear two totally different Tonewoods, meaning backs and sides woods, same type of top, but backs and sides woods with the 2 different pickups. That's the whole thing.
Wild. That was wild.
You could definitely tell what had undersaddles. It was the first 2, and you couldn't tell what Tonewoods they were because they sounded almost exactly alike. And if I had a guess, and I didn't write it down, which means I should get it right, I'm taking a guess and saying that it was of the last 2. I think it was 717 and then 517.
Yeah,
rosewood and mahogany. Either
correct.
way.
It was 717, 717, 517, 717, 517. But that, Mike, you've already hit on kind of the point there, is that with the undersaddle pickups, the guitars don't sound any different. With the ES2, you actually hear differences in the sound of the guitars. And that's part of the reason earlier I really wanted to show the frequency response graph too, is so that you actually see visually, along with hearing with your ears, that there are differences in the frequency response of the pickup in different guitars when it's the ES2, whereas undersaddle pickups, there aren't.
Yeah, that's
All right.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say to Gabriel's point, there'll be people in the comments that say like, set your ES2 to 7 on the bass and 7 on the treble, and just like blanket statements based nothing on what kind of guitar is it, what amp are you putting it into, what speaker is it going into, or if you're on stage, you know, all the variables that go to an in stage. There's no just set these settings to these numbers and it'll sound good. That doesn't exist.
100%.
I've seen a lot of questions or comments or demands.
Yeah.
Just get to the EQ.
Yeah.
The challenge we have here is, excuse me, Rich, you brought up a good one. Picks make a good, Tobias, I'm sorry, picks. Rich, you brought up strings.
Yeah, in this case,
Andy
the
always
strings
says,
on all those guitars were the same, and the pick he used was the same, and you had the same professional session musician. That was
Right.
the whole reason I really wanted to do this with Devin, with Taylor Guitars, is we took the most consistent guitars. Again, I'm going to say this is a blanket statement after we just talked about blanket statements, but what I think are the most consistently built guitars there are, and put different pickups in them, use the same strings and the same picks, and listen to how different those things sounded. It's
all right.
pretty wild. So this
But
kind
there-
of,
Oddly enough, I'm going to go on the contrary real quick. There is also a time for undersaddle pickups.
100%.
There's a time for sound hole pickups. There's
100%.
a time for things. I've been getting a lot of Sunrise pickups as sound hole
Yeah.
pickups. It's a very expensive, very revered pickup. I love them. They're fantastic. If you have that sound that you like, and let's do an example of Ben Harper. Ben Harper's a great one. He's got many guitars, and they're all going through one rig. So it's better for him to have that same pickup in every instrument so that he can just switch, right? And some of it's not for the difference in tonality of the Tonewoods or the difference in sound or whatever. It could be a tuning change, right? It could be, let's go Goo Goo Dolls, right? Goo Goo Dolls, John Resnick has a different guitar for every single song, tuned differently. He's got weird string like differences. He uses flat wounds on like his 2 low strings on one of his guitars. It's like super weird. He has the same pickup, and it's for that consistency. So this isn't to say sound hole is not
Hi, Roger.
good, or sound hole or undersaddle is not good. It's to say these are tools. We need to figure out a way to use them.
Yeah,
Right.
or play with a horn section behind you and try playing acoustic guitar, or in front of you, even worse.
Right.
Right.
So many variables. Someone said it. There are so many variables that you just can't really control sometimes.
Yeah.
Let's get to EQ, can we?
yeah, I really want to kind of dovetail into what you said, because one of the things I was talking to you about earlier, Jay, is that it's really important to identify what your goals are and why you're using what you're using. Taylor's goal when they created the original ES1 and the ES2 following it, the stated goal of the whole thing was to create a high fidelity acoustic guitar sound that was the most transparent representation of the guitar, the Tonewoods, and the player as humanly possible. That's the goal. That's it. The goal of undersaddle pickups is to be very consistent. So you can take the same undersaddle pickup and put it in 20 guitars that you switch on and off, and they'll sound the exact same. You can plug them into the same channel. And if you're like a touring artist or you're somebody who switches guitars a ton, that's a really useful thing, because if you don't have that, then you have to set a channel up in your PA system for all of those. And if you're switching Tonewoods, if you're switching body shapes, if you're switching string gauges, you're going to have to set up for all of those things. So if you're somebody who switches guitars a ton, the ES2 maybe, unless you have like a really dedicated sound crew and the ability to do that, you might be better served with an undersaddle pickup. If your goal is to hear your guitar, the way you play, the type of pick you use, the type of strings you use, is to translate those things to your audience, the ES2 is a great pickup. And that's the purpose of the ES2. That's what it's chasing.
And the majority of our customers aren't Taylor Swift. Like they're not playing in an arena every night.
Right.
Yeah. You want a good sound for your guitar
Yeah.
in your environment.
Yeah, most players take a guitar when they play out, right?
Yeah.
Most people don't take 7 guitars. Most people take a guitar.
But
Maybe
they could.
They could, and
They could.
I encourage that if you're into it. But most people take 1, maybe 2 guitars.
Yeah.
So the goal of the ES2 is fidelity. And the goal of undersaddle pickups is consistency, is how I kind of put it. And if your goal is to hear yourself and hear what you're doing and be true to your guitar, that's where the ES2 just absolutely shines. It's fantastic at that. It's to my ear as an audio engineer, the closest thing you can get to miking a guitar. And there have even been times in, like sessions where we've been filming something, because I work in video, where a microphone, somebody bumps a microphone, with their guitar, or there's a chair squeak, or somebody bumps a piece of gear in the middle of a great take or whatever. And, or a bad mic cable. I had a bad mic cable with an artist once, and I didn't know until I heard it later. It was like, oh, that mic cable was totally bad. That's bad news. So in that case, I have that DI backup from the ES2. Nice.
Yeah. I'll say another one too is if you're playing in a band setting, or even just like a trio or something, and you're recording, even sometimes once you get the mix in, having that clean signal from the ES2, that high fidelity signal, sometimes there's an edge to that signal that gets you a better attack than what you captured with the microphone. And so you can get some more maybe of what you want in your recording by blending in that pickup signal along with the microphone. So not just one or the other, but both.
Yeah, there are so many times I will go to the pickup, especially when you have people who do a lot of single note picking and stuff. There are so many times I will blend some of the pickup, especially in the low end, just for note definition. So it's not just boom. You're actually hearing the notes ring out a little more. I'll blend, 10 to 20% of that pickup sometimes.
Yeah.
Hey, so I have a question, Tyler. Maybe you can help with this one. There's a couple of questions in here, actually. Let's get to this. I'm going to actually pull a question up. 517 owner, sometimes it seems like the ES2 is almost too sensitive and picks up too much noise. So we've heard this before, right? I've heard this from Nashville engineers who are mixing a massive band with like 8 people and maybe a horn section. I've heard people say things like, but I can hear, I'm picking up the overheads, I'm picking up the cymbals. Can you talk about how, because that is a thing that people don't understand, is that the guitar top gets pretty microphonic depending on how you open it up.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The sensitivity of the pickup is picking up motion in that top. It's the configuration of the pickup and the location of it. So it does act more like a microphone than another pickup. So anything that you could be doing in, I'm not going to say, how you're playing is really going to affect what goes into it. First thing off the bat is try turning everything down on the preamp. Like don't, again, like we said off the bat, our tendency, especially if you're an electric guitar player primarily, you turn volume all the way up, bass and treble all the way up. Right off there's so much on tap in an active EQ system that turning it down is not a bad thing. You're not getting bad sound necessarily. It feels that way to us as guitar players, like, oh, I'm turning something down, but I want more. I want more of everything. It's you want to hear something that you enjoy. So start with it low and then bring things up, especially if you're hearing too much of something. Pick noise, probably in the treble frequency. So try turning down your treble. But as well, strings, types of strings, you might be getting more noise out of the strings that you're playing. And depending on, also right off the bat, everyone may or may not be aware of it, but there's a phase switch on the ES2 preamp on at least the current generation. I should say, I'll preface everything I'm saying with I'm a I've only worked at Taylor for 10 years, 8 years. So I'm only very familiar with the ES2, not the earlier versions if we're talking about that. But there is a small phase switch on it. And a lot of times what someone's hearing is what they don't like about it either being in phase or out of phase. And some people might prefer an out of phase sound with how they play and where they're playing. Most people probably not, but it all depends. Some people, their biggest problem is feedback. Other people, it's noise. So that could be something to try as well.
Yeah, this is a good point to talk about input gain, correctly setting input gain, how you do that. So when you set up any channel, and there's a great, we can put it in the comments maybe after, there's a video I made about how to just like Live Sound Basic, set up a channel with the ES2. The best thing you can do is set your mixing board to unity, which is the U or 0. So set your faders there. If you're on an amp, set your master volume to halfway. Your channel volume is going to act like gain. And you'll have a gain knob on a mixing board. Your channel volume on an acoustic guitar amp is gain. Gain is sensitivity. It's how much sensitivity you're pulling from that pickup. So usually what I'll do is set all of the EQ totally flat. On the guitar, I'll set the EQ to the detents. On a mixing board on an amp, I set everything flat. I'll turn the volume knob on the guitar all the way up. I'll turn it to 10 because I can back it off later. And then I'll set input gain at either the mixing console or on the amp till I get good signal. And if I am hearing a bunch of string noise or something like that, that's a good time to take the volume knob and back it off on the guitar because you may be making your pickup a bit too sensitive. The other thing to talk about here with the ES2, we were talking earlier about how much more of a sensitive pickup it is and how much how reflective it is of the player. And Paul Tobias just made my point. I was going to hit that. Nice, Jay. Good job. It's reflective of what you do. So if you're playing a 224 CEK, a Koa top guitar with 0.60 picks, you're getting a thin and bright sound.
Those exist? I'm just kidding.
You're hearing thin picks on strings. You're gonna get a loud, scratchy sound. That's if you're listening in the room, that's what you're making. And the ES2 will reflect that. If you do that same thing on on an undersaddle pickup, you can use heavy picks or thin picks, and it makes absolutely no difference because it doesn't care. The ES2 does, and it's trying to show what you're doing. And so if you switch to a bit of a heavier pick, I quite like these Talex 1.25s, and I've been using these Dunlop flow picks because they're great for hybrid picking. Those are the two things I've been using lately, but they're both heavier picks. One's a 1.25, one's 1.5. So those things, you'll hear less string noise and more meat, which also means you don't have to strum as hard. If you're strumming hard with a thin pick on a hard top guitar, this is going to sound bright. That's how it sounds. And one of the ways you can kind of illustrate this to yourself is set everything up flat like I talked about and leave, set the channel and then turn the volume on the guitar all the way down, start playing, and have a friend, grab your friend or neighbor and have them slowly turn up the volume on your guitar.
Yeah.
And you will hear the fact that the guitar sounds like you. It sounds like what you sound like in the room. It's just giving you that back.
Real quick. My mom sent us a text and said this is the nerdiest episode yet.
I'm proud of that.
We just wanted everyone to know. So just that. There is. I invited you. That's why I was like, Mom, check this out. Tyler's coming back. It's gonna be awesome. Anyway, I love that, Gabe, that you just said that. I've done that in a different way without turning the volume up, and that is, again, I said earlier in the comments, a buddy of mine works at a church, and he asked me a long time ago if I knew anybody who could mix audio, and I said yes, I can mix audio, and I've been mixing audio quite frequently there for a few years now. And I brought an 811. So last week or the week before last week was Valentine's Day. But the week before last, we did a showdown with small body guitars, right? So I brought an 811, and there's 3 guitar players because it's a church. I love that. There's always so many musicians. It's fantastic. But within top 3 nerdiest, it is. So I took all 3 guitar players and passed the guitar around and did the same thing. The 2 of the guitar players were much more advanced. And one of them is like an incredible jazz musician. So just putting the guitar in their hands showed me with the same setting. I notched the bass and the treble down, so right at center detent. I did not move them. And I took the volume and pointed it straight out towards the sound hole. Very basic. So at like 9 o'clock, right? If you're looking at it like a clock. And to hear all three of them play with different thickness picks, different ability, and then just a different kind of almost energy and strength was wild. Let me tell you, the jazz player sounded the best.
Yeah. And like you can equate that to so many other things, right? So like if you set up a microphone for a recording session or for live sound, set the EQ flat, set up a microphone and have three different singers sing through it. They will sound wildly different because they're three different singers. Or if you grab an electric guitar and a nice tube amp. Nice.
No, Rich, you were number one.
If you grab an electric guitar and a nice tube amp and you set it up and you have one player play through it and you hand it to two other players, it's going to sound totally different. Like you can take what's something I sound terrible through, a Vox, like an AC30, anything but a Gretsch, I will sound like a mess. You can have it so dialed in and so perfect. Mike can be playing it and just like ripping and it can sound amazing. And you hand it to me and it will sound like the worst turd in the world. Like it's how I sound on that thing and how I interact with it. That's not my sound. I don't do well on it. It's not forgiving. It's very chimey. Like give me my Bad Cat, which is kind of Marshall-y and it's like a matchless. And that's my sound. So everybody is a bit different. And guitars, acoustic guitars, we're so used to, again, traditionally like hearing that under saddle pickup thing where it sounds like the pickup when it's plugged in, that we're not used to it sounding like us. And so we're not used to having to go in and deal with what we're actually doing.
I call Andy Powers a cheat code because he designs all these guitars and then he knows how to play them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So when Andy plays the guitars that he designs, it's magical no matter what guitar it is. And then I'm like, that's the guitar for me. I'm going to grab that one. And I grab it and I'm like, ooh, yeah, not so good.
Maybe it's not.
Maybe it's not that good. So this is another point, and we'll dive into, it's hard to give you a blanket EQ, but Gabe, maybe you can help in a second, like a blanket. How should we set this thing up? Okay, now we've figured out that, and we figured out what that, where to maybe push and pull a little. We'll get there in a second. But going back to what you just said, a 214 CE with a thin pick and ES2 is going to sound a whole lot different than a 717 with a heavier pick and an ES2.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah, those are totally different sounds.
So often it's not that they don't like an owner here, a guitar owner here. It's not that they don't like the sound of the ES2. It's more maybe they don't like the sound of the way that they're playing. I mean, it sounds, I don't want to sound rude, but is that because I know when I pick up a guitar, there are certain guitars at Taylor that I sound much better on, right? And maybe it's my playing style. Maybe it's the way that I attack the strings. Maybe it's the way, but is there a really nice way to say that?
So
maybe it's not the guitar. It's you,
Mike.
Gabe.
Mike, you're somebody who can speak to this a lot, I think, because you've done so much public facing stuff and talked to so many guitar buyers. But when you say acoustic guitar, most people have like a sense memory in their head. They have a sound that in their head is acoustic guitar. And that's what they think acoustic guitar is. Like when you say acoustic guitar, this person just hears this. And like for a long time, for most people, it was like a D28 because it's like the most recorded guitar in the world and what everybody heard. And now it's other things for sure. There you go. The player is part of the signal chain, 100%. So as we get into guitar buying, and I know Mike and I have talked about this before too, like for a long time, when people compared Taylors like against other companies, they were always comparing what they'd heard, like the ubiquitous things in Taylor, like they're comparing a 314 and a D28, because those are the two things they'd heard the most. They're not like things. They're not apples and apples. So a lot of times people like will go and buy a guitar. They're super into it and it's great. And as you progress as a player and as you change as a player, it's important to remember that, like Carlos just said a minute ago, I think it was Carlos, that you're part of that signal chain. So changing things about how you play, about the tools that you use, all of those things will affect the results of what you get. The strings, the pick you use, exploring those things is super important.
Right. Exploring those things is super important. Let's go in. I hope we've helped bring some information. I would love to answer some of the questions that we've seen in the feed, Gabe. I'll just let you kind of go for it, and then or else I'm just I'm going to just randomly pick questions.
Yeah, do you want to pick some?
All right, I'll randomly pick questions. I like that.
And while he finds one, Mike, do you want to expound on that at all?
Expound.
Sure, yeah. I mean, while you're searching.
While you search.
I've done myriad road shows, find your fit events. I've dealt with thousands of customers, customer facing in stores and what have you. And even before that, before I was working at Taylor, I worked in a guitar store. I worked in musical instrument retail for years as well. So I've been doing this now for the better part of 23 years in one way or another. And there's one thing that, one conclusion that I've come up with through all those years. Nobody plays the same. That's it. Nobody plays the same. And you can play similar, you can have a similar style, but nobody plays exactly the same. And that's where this whole thing comes in, where if nobody plays exactly the same, why do you treat every guitar the same? You can't. And you can't treat every pickup system the same. So that's why, yes, some people say, well, I can't just plug in my Taylor and go. Okay. You can't just plug in a Les Paul and go. You can't just plug in a Tele and go. You can't just plug in a K&K and go. That's not how it works. You need to make sure that you spend the time finding what works for you, because nobody plays the same.
I love that, Mike.
And the fact is that not everybody is going to like the same thing, because nobody plays the same, and it all comes back to that.
And often we remember, right? We talk about this on factory tours from time to time, right? Bob really wanted to win at how a guitar feels.
Yes.
Okay. I have other guitar brands. I have the Enemy, as some of the folks here would think. I do. I have a Lerve. Jean Lerve is a hero of mine and Bob's. So I have different guitars that sound different, right? I play my Taylor. So he did win at that, because they're more comfortable for me to play. They might not be more comfortable for you to play. We understand this thing. So I love the idea of people, right? I think John wrote, go buy a Martin. Well, yeah, I got to have one. Of course. Please. Anyway, let's get to some of these questions here. Here's a really good question.
Go ahead.
Wireless rigs. I have not found one yet that plays nicely with my ES2. I have 3.
Something this general, it's a little bit hard to give a specific answer. This is, Tyler mentioned the phase switch earlier. So there are 2 different kinds of phase we talk about in recording. There's phase alignment, which is truly in or out of phase. And then there's actually polarity. And so the switch on the inside of the ES2 is more accurate. It's described as a polarity switch. It flips the polarity of the signal. So if you have a guitar where the pickup system is out of phase with the DI box or with the guitar amp or with the PA, it's going to sound weird. Often you'll get a harsh mid-rangey sound. So one of the things you can do is flip that polarity switch. If you have a harsh mid-rangey sound and you have no low end, flip that switch. It'll probably fix it. There are times when historically Taylor's encouraged people to flip that to cure feedback, because it'll chop the low end off the signal basically. And so it's not like you don't still have fundamental low end, but all the resonant sound will go away. Feedback is a whole other issue that has a bunch of components, but it's mostly got to do with gain structure and speaker placement. And that's a quick and easy way to fix that. It's not it's not what I would call like the most thorough way or the correct way to do it as a sound engineer, but it's a fast way to do it. But if it feels like you don't have much low end or you have like a really harsh mid range, flip that. The other thing I do want to talk about with EQ though is understanding what EQ is in relation to a guitar. When you look at a mixing board, you have low, mid, and high. Sometimes you have a sweepable, hopefully if you have a good mixing board, you have a sweepable mid-range control, but it's really important to understand that the guitar basically exists only in the mid-range.
Right.
The high is like 10 or 12K, and that's like the air at the top of the strings, and the low is usually like 80 hertz, and the only string on the guitar that is below 80 hertz is the low E open. Or actually that's 83 hertz, so it's not even below it, so it's 80 or 100 hertz, so that's the only string that's even around there. So you're cutting off like or resonant low end basically with that, but that's it. Everything else, guitar's a mid-range instrument, everything else is in the mid-range. So when you have like, you know, people talk about the guitar being harsh in the mid-range, it's a mid-range instrument. And so a lot of times what you need to do is take a sweepable midband and find the frequencies that are harsh. It's probably going to be between like 700K and 3,500. Like look in there, 700 hertz and 3,500 kilohertz. Look in there, sweep around in there, and you'll find the harsh frequencies most of the time. Like that's where they're going to live. But
a lot of this takes time.
Yeah.
And I know we understand that not everybody has time. So it goes back to that statement of plug and play. Mike said it, well, a Les Paul isn't even plug and play.
Right.
Yeah. What also takes time is looking into you. If you have a problem with your sound, and I'm a gear fanatic, like I don't know how many amps I have. That's how many I have. I have more amps than most people have in another country, because I always think that the next amp I'm going to buy is going to solve my current problem. And it doesn't usually, but not to discount what people are looking for, but what's worth trying before you go into like swapping a pickup or finding a new pickup or changing pickup systems entirely is look at an EQ pedal. And we're talking about like sweeping the mid band and like some of these things that people are talking about, you might just need to take down. And if you don't know what an EQ pedal is, I'll try to pull mine off my pedal board right now. Okay. And look how beat up mine is from using it so much. And so you can see what I like to do. So these are the frequencies, and you might find that a lot of your problems are just in this 8K to 10K, like really high frequency range, or what you don't like about the ES2 might be that sort of area. So if you just take it down a little bit, and EQ pedals are so useful that because you could find that you switch your whole pickup over and there's still something you're like, oh, well, I like this other aspect of it, but not this aspect of it. You can really tailor your sound with an EQ pedal and probably get what you want out of that.
I think that we should have Rich Gasciato on in a few weeks, and we'll go through some pedals and we'll go through some DIs. I have some acoustic DIs that we can show as a reference, and we can do that kind of stuff. So we'll dive into that. Here's another question I want to get into. What about having a microphone in the body?
It's a lot like putting a microphone in a trash can.
Yeah, good. Yeah, perfect.
You don't hear an acoustic guitar from the inside. There's a reason. So in we're gonna go so deep nerd right now. I'm so pumped about this. So in this room in my basement is designed to be a studio. This was designed to record and mix in, and so like these walls are like detached from the exterior walls of the house, and there's special insulation and all this crap. So in room acoustics, and Tyler, I will not at all be surprised you know about this. I know Jay does. That you'll talk about how sound waves bounce around inside the room, how you'll get standing waves, you'll get comb filtering, you'll get nodes, all that stuff. That's happening inside of an acoustic guitar. The way acoustic guitars are built and the way they're braced and the way the sound hole is made and the size of it and the placement of it is all designed to filter those things in a certain way so that you hear them from the outside. So when you're hearing a microphone on the inside of a guitar, you're hearing a mess that's having to go through a lot of filtering. And again, most of the time those things are really feedback prone, and they're not better. They're just different. So when you compare them to an undersaddle pickup, sure, they're not as like quacky and twangy, but they're kind of a big mess, and they tend to be really feedback prone because you have so many frequencies building up inside the guitar. So I'm not a big fan of them for that reason.
Yeah, if you listen to just like a regular microphone that's, you know, in front of a guitar, it's not 3 inches away from the strings or 2 inches away from the strings. It's 12 to 18 inches away or 2 feet away, because that's the guitar breathing. And that's that microphone, the capsule on that microphone picking up those frequencies of the guitar breathing. If you have that capsule almost right up against the top of the guitar, well, then you may as well, if that's the sound you like, you may as well build a guitar with the bracing on the outside, in a way that's kind of like what the response would be. That's what you would be hearing. And I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just being flippant. But,
Right.
you know, but the point is that, you know, the microphone of all of these amplification techniques needs that breathing room in order to really maximize the sonic value that it gives you in return.
100%.
Sonic Value. Gabe. What
Sonic
is it?
Value is our new
That's
new
another
band
band.
name.
Yeah.
There it is. Sonic Value. I can't wait.
Gabe, what is a DI?
Direct ejection box. So what a DI is doing is it's taking Tyler. Here we go. We're going back into impedance.
Yes.
It's taking the high impedance signal out of your preamp, out of your guitar, and changing it to low impedance, which has a few benefits. And Tyler's going to tell you more of them than I am. But a couple things that it does is it makes a much cleaner signal. A balanced output has 3 points of contact, one of which is a ground, which is where audio noise goes to die and be resolved. It's going to clean up your signal. It's much better for longer cable runs. And that's basically all it does. A lot of times those DI boxes will also have their own polarity switch on them. It'll say phase, but it's polarity.
And can you explain negative 15 dB pad?
Yeah, a pad is going to just cut 15 decibels, which is quite a lot of signal off. So if you have an instrument with a really hot pickup coming off of it, or something that's really, like really causing you a lot of feedback problems, you can hit that pad and it will cut the signal way back. You'll have to increase the amount of gain you're using at your amp or at your soundboard, but it will cut the signal back and probably resolve some of those issues.
So just real quick, a DI, this is a very basic Radial Pro DI.
Somebody was asking earlier about good DIs. Radial makes a great DI.
Radial makes a really great
really good
DI.
components. I use those ones all the time.
Guitar goes here, right? And then this is in lay person's terms, right? Guitar goes here, microphone cable, so an XLR comes out this end, and then you plug this into your mixer or your device or your PA of whatever sorts. Right. So that's going to take high impedance and convert to low impedance and give you a better sound. Now, if we talk, we'll have another episode, I swear, in a few weeks. I love this topic. This is nerdy. This is fantastic, but we'll bring examples of different acoustic DIs that actually have an EQ in there. So Tyler spoke about EQ pedal. I'm a fan of the EQ pedal. I use them on electric guitar pedal boards all day long. And I have a couple of his examples where we could show you. There are a couple of there's a Fishman, a Radial makes a good one. LR Bags makes a couple really good ones. There's a couple of Bags acoustic DIs that have a tuner right in it. So you can just
Venue DI. I have a Venue DI that I like a lot.
Yep.
Yep.
Orange makes a 2-channel preamp now that's pretty cool. It works like a DI. It's actually almost like a little amp at your feet. So yeah, we'll dive into that, but that is a DI.
And if people want the simple reason of like, well, why do DIs even exist? Why isn't that just, why does my guitar need to then go into this thing? Well, a DI has a transformer in it. And so one with a built-in EQ is even better, because then bypass the need for an EQ pedal. You put it into the same thing. But having that transformer makes your acoustic guitar appear to whatever you're plugging in more
We
like
all
a
do, Phil.
magnetic pickup of an electric guitar. And that's what the sound equipment's designed for. Everything can't be equal because the piezo pickups in acoustic guitars only put out a certain amount of signal. We need to boost that signal up to line level, up to a certain level, but then by that point, it doesn't play nice with other things. So you put it into a transformer coupled DI, and good things happen.
Ooh, here's one. What do you think, Gabriel, on a Taylor website ES2 settings sheet? Man, we better get to the web manager for that. We better have Lisa back on it.
I think two things. One, I created a kind of an intro to ES2 help video to help you on setting up the ES2. However, as we were talking about giving you general settings, we can give you a starting point, but there aren't settings that are going to work for everybody. Because just like putting a microphone, like Mike was talking about putting a microphone in front of a guitar and you're hearing the distance away and you're hearing like the room it's in, the PA you're coming out of, the room you're in, the Tonewoods of the guitar, the picks that you're using, the strings that you're using, the type of player you are, all those things matter and they're all different for everybody. So we can create a starting point for you and a guide. Again, I've kind of done a video guide and maybe I need to update that a little more and go a little deeper on it. But we can create a starting point for those things, but there's no cheat sheet that's going to work on every guitar for every player in every situation, because the point of the ES2, kind of going back to it, is to be really representative of the guitar and the Tonewoods and the player and all of those things. So it's going to be different. So I feel, go
Look
ahead.
at this real quick. Can you define sweeping the mid-range frequencies?
100%. Man, where without going and picking up a giant mixing board, which I have one back there. So often on a mixing board, man, I have a little guy around here.
I have one.
Too.
Hold on.
Do you
I'll
have
be right
one?
back. Yeah,
Yeah,
I got one. Hold on.
On a mixing board, you'll see high and low, and then you'll see a mid-range between it, and then often you'll have a secondary mid-range knob, and a lot of times I'll have a little line connecting them, and it'll the mid-range, you'll have basically a mid-range gain control. I think that's the same board I have. And the other knob will list frequencies. So when I talk about sweeping something, on those mid-range controls, I think J's are the middle two blue ones. So you'll see the top one on those channels is a high, and the top blue one is a high, and then the green one is low. And then the middle two are going to be mid-range, and one of them is how loud the mid-range is. And then the other one is what frequency you're affecting. So when I talk about sweeping, what I'm talking about doing is actually taking that and you're moving it back and forth. You're actually think of it as a bump. There you go.
Hey, Gabriel, would I be correct in saying I think a good example of this in the guitar world would also be a wah-wah pedal?
Yeah.
Because essentially as you're cradling down and up, you get the wow. That's you're sweeping a frequency to give you that wah sound.
Yeah.
So this is just basically translating that to a mixing board at specific frequencies.
Yeah. So if you think of a EQ as a flat line like this, bass on one side and treble on the other, and it's creating if you turn it up, you're creating a hump and then just slowly moving it back and forth. And you're looking for the frequencies that sound really annoying, and then you take the control for that, the gain control for the mid-range, and turn it down. And don't turn it down a ton. The other thing I want to talk about a lot, or at least mention here, and that I say a lot, is because the ES2 is so reflective and so sensitive of the guitar and the player, is that you don't want to make giant moves. You want to make little moves. With undersaddle pickups, because they're not what I would call very dynamic. We heard earlier, kind of calling back to those videos where like the 717 and the 517 rosewood and mahogany didn't sound any different, right? So they don't, you're not hearing difference in in those. In order to make differences in them at the PA, you have to make big moves with the EQ to milk difference out of those. If you make big moves with the ESQ or the ES2, you're going to make it much. It's going to be very dramatic. So if you take low end on a mixing board and you crank it, it's just going to be wild. It's going to be really overpowering. You want to make small moves, like a little bit, like quarter turn, like little quarter turns, baby turns.
Butch has a good comment here. Using the EQ on a touch mix, a QSC touch mix. Actually, it's a really good idea.
This is a good
for
idea.
a guitar channel, and saving the scene for different guitars is as effective as a venue DI. I agree. I'm a big fan of the QSC touch mix 100% because you can dial that in and you can actually switch from channel to channel. That's a great idea.
Yeah, 100%. There's any digital mixer like that, where you can save something as a scene or as an instrument. And I'm like the Behringers are really popular. I know that. Mackie makes some. Lots of people make them now. That's going to be a helpful situation if you're switching guitars a lot. You can, if you have a dedicated sound person who's working with you, or the ability to control that from stage, and you can switch those things. Sure, you can use the ES2 and 20 guitars and just dial them in.
TC, we all do.
We all do.
Yeah, and this is what makes this community of primetime nerds the best Tuesday fun time, because we just come in here and just get nerdy and learn a lot. So again, at the beginning of the show, if you didn't see it, originally I was not a big fan of the ES2, but now I know how it works. And now I know that it's not right for every situation. I will agree with that, right? It's not right for everybody. If you're Zach Brown band and you're ripping all those musicians, all those, players on stage at the same time, maybe an ES2 is not right for you. And you got to be okay with that, right? If you're looking to find, it's a situation where I've heard people say things like, I just don't like those 3 knobs. Okay. You can go to your local dealer and order a guitar without those 3 knobs on them. That's true. So you can get what you want. You can find what you want. You can add a sound hole pickup to it if you want. But this is your game, so it's your guitars. And yeah, my brain is full too. Ken, I love that. This is such a killer show, and I know we could go on for about 3.5 more hours, but we're not going to, because we need to leave room for follow-up episodes, Gabriel and Tyler. I'm just
I think what Jay said is so important, is that we are all learning. Like I said earlier, Tyler and I were having a whole amp and impedance discussion earlier on the Taylor Guitars Owners Group on Facebook. Come join if you're not in it. We talk about stuff like this all of the time. And I learned a whole thing from Tyler. And there's so much value in just talking to other people. You'll learn a ton.
Yeah, that's Gabriel. You've mixed I designed one of the machines that builds the ES2, and you still know more about it than I do, in terms of its practical use. So I didn't design the pickup, but I know intrinsically how it's made, and I learn about it all the time.
Yeah, I learn about it, and there's different schools of thought, right? Often I go all the way up with volume and then back it down to where I want it. That's me. That's how I mix with it. That is not for everybody. You heard Mike say a trouble that a lot of us guitarists get into is we dime everything. You can't dime everything. So really, this is us taking, responsibility in, maybe we'll get you guys better content about the ES2 so that you understand it a little bit more. Step 1 was having this show. So we're really excited that you guys came here and hung out with us. Gabe, we're definitely going to have you back on. Tyler, we're going to have you back on. And I think having Rich on to talk about different pedals would be really fun.
I like this idea also.
Oh, that's a great, yeah. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good show. Except for we won't have you on. We'll pick somebody else.
Yeah. Somebody good.
Yeah, right.
I guess if you're plugging your guitar in, it has to be plugged into something. So that's the other part of the equation.
So the Stones were wrong? You can always get what you want? You just got to work for it. Maybe. Do we have any more questions? Here's one. Tex had one. So what does Zach Brown use on his nylon string Taylor? The one that says Zach Brown on the fingerboard? That is a custom pickup that Andy Powers, I think, worked with it's something wild that I had never seen before. But it also has to be like Zach. Have you seen how Zach plays guitar? Like he literally beats the crap out of his instruments.
Yeah, it's abusive.
Yeah, I think you've heard us talk about how it's like a weird 13 fret nylon string. Everything is wrong. Like everything is almost against how we build guitars regularly. But that was a thing when Bob first met Zach and said, "Man, the way you play, we need to make you your own instrument." So it's really a Zach Brown special. I'll find out what pickup it is. There is a manufacturer, but I just don't know. I don't know.
He's a really good use case for undersaddle pickups.
Yeah.
Like
Zach
when you play that, Zach Brown is the signal chain. When you play that hard, you don't want a bunch of dynamics from the pickup because it's going to sound really squashed. If you have thunder hands like that and you just absolutely are trying to kill your guitar, use an undersaddle pickup. It's a much better option. And then put a compression pedal on it.
Yeah.
I liked this question earlier. Is it true that an acoustic guitar with no electronics sounds better acoustically than one with electronics?
Oh, yeah.
That's a great question.
I had to think about that for a second.
In general, I'm going to say no. In general.
Here we go with a generality.
I know, I'm sorry. I think when we're talking about the ES2 and where the controls are and where the preamp is mounted, it's mounted there to be accessible and also to have the least amount of effect on the vibration of the guitar. Because of where it's mounted, it's very close to the neck block and the guitar doesn't vibrate up there very much anyway. If you take your knuckle and you just gently rap on the top, it'll sound like a door there. As you move down the body, it'll sound, like a drum. So if you think about where, like, I'm going to name names, like older Fishman style, like, what everybody had in the 90s, the big barn doors, where you were cutting like a giant chunk of the guitar out on the side. That's a terrible place because it actually is affecting the sound of the guitar, I think. But in general, I would say no to most modern things like the Bags Anthem and stuff that are mounted in the sound hole, stuff like that.
Mud Truck 4x4. First of all, it's a fantastic.
That's a great name.
And we're calling it your stage name. By the way, that's what everybody has here is a stage name. Your stage name is outstanding. The fact that we should grade this, you get a 10 out of 10 for this one. All right. I beat them strings like they owe me money in
That's
all
so
caps. I'm getting a T-shirt made that says that because it's so good.
I can hear that comment
with like a Willie Nelson
the volume
guitar on it. Yeah.
I love that so much.
I love it.
Okay.
It's so great.
One last little guy here, and then we're going to move on to 2 minutes of sports. Original ES2 preamp versus current preamp? ?
Original preamp was a lot hotter, and people were having problems with feedback. And
there was a mid-range push, right?
I think it was more just that it was
hot.
Okay, so this is my take on it. Tyler, correct me if I'm wrong. The ES1 had a balanced output. Super nerd, we're going in. Had a balanced output.
You got 30 seconds though.
If you used it with a balanced output cable, you would get the full signal. If you used it with a regular instrument cable, it was about 6 dBs quieter, which is significant. You can turn up gain and it'll measure out. So in response to that, it feels like when the initial ES2 came out, they made the preamp considerably hotter to kind of counteract that, and it was too hot. And people were just getting a lot more feedback and a lot more like noise on the top of the guitar and stuff. And so they swapped it out, and also kind of changed the EQ. They swapped it to the EST preamp.
The comment section's so good. Carlo, buckle up. We're
going in.
I saw one earlier, just a few seconds ago. Okay, we're just
how far off was I on that, Mike and Tyler?
We're just about to sign off. Gabriel,
pretty much right there.
That was spot on. I
I was making that up, so I'm just joking.
Yeah. As far as I know, like that's the earlier versions. I'm still picking up the history of that. So actually, you know more about that than I do. The 2016 version, I don't believe there was any actual changes to the EQ other than dropping the volume down a bit. There were some capacitor changes at some point, but all the capacitors were the same values. And I will say that there's, there'll be electronic supply, depending on capacitor brands and stuff. So there has been small changes over the years, but that the EST, as far as going from 2016 to 2017, I believe it's just the output being lowered. I can triple check that.
Should use
Scott.
a balance cable for ES2.
That was an ES1 thing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that was an ES1 thing. ES2 is not a balanced system. You can use any, just like you could have used with ES1. The thing is, just having a balance cable with ES1 would just boost the signal, and that extra ground made it a little bit quieter. But ES2 is not a balanced system in that regard, and you can use any cable you like. So
Thank goodness, because I don't balance very well.
The balanced
Rich?
output thing was great, but kind of ahead of its time.
That was for
and
you, Rich.
Stores
That
just
was for you, Rich.
stores didn't talk about it all that much, and so there was kind of no point in having it in my personal estimation. So
Statement?
cutaway should not matter. Andy's talked about that before, and I will absolutely refer you to his statements on it, but it's he described it kind of as negligible. Does it change the sound? Yes, but not enough. You're more likely to hear a difference in the piece of top wood from guitar to guitar than the cutaway.
You're probably going to hear the difference in how much coffee the guitar player drank.
The age of the strings.
The age of the strings, the thickness of the pick, all sorts of things. We should start a luthier fight.
Luthier fight.
Yeah.
Luthier fight.
Luthier fight.
Thunderdome for luthiers.
Luthier fight. Someone's holding the GP in this photo, Jack. I like your photo. Sound hole covers. Do they matter since it's not under saddle? My experience is not really. Well, I'm going to tell you a recent story we had. We filmed a band, and you'll see the content coming out on Friday, and I'm not going to tell you who it is because it's a surprise. But placement of person needed something to cover sound hole because they were literally 18 inches from a subwoofer. Okay. 2 feet from a 9-foot grand piano, and they had blasting wedges, floor wedges at them. So guess what that guitar did? I'll give you one guess. You're all right. It took off. And Gabe and I laugh at this because a lot of it's like, yeah, but there's got to be some user error in there somewhere, which possibly there was. But the guitarist couldn't hear himself. Well, guess what? You're sitting 2 feet from a grand piano, and this dude was hitting it like this, and he didn't have ears, and everything was monstrous. And so we didn't have sound hole covers.
He means in-ear monitors. The piano player did have ears.
Physically, yes, he had physical.
Yeah,
He was playing by
ears.
vibration.
Yes.
right. He didn't have in-ear monitors, and we didn't have a sound hole covers, but we did have gaff tape.
Well, there
That's
you go.
exciting. Gaff tape works sometimes, but
Nevertheless,
they don't make that much of a difference. I think. I mean, some people like them, some people don't. Some of our guitars don't fit a standard feedback buster, so sometimes gaff tape works.
yeah, I would say they can if you're in a massive line array situation with subs or like super loud like situation, or you have like a lot of high gain going on. But in general, no.
Longest
In
podcast.
general, you just don't need them.
Longest episode of Primetime ever. We're going to move along. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a long, grueling conversation about the ES2. I hope you guys learned something. We're going to bring back another episode. We're going to talk about DI pedals, and eventually we're going to do an episode about amps, acoustic amps, to answer those questions. etc. But right now, it's time for, you know what time it is. You know what time it is? It's time for 2 minutes of sports. Hey, Tyler,
Mm-hmm.
do you care about football?
No,
Okay, so how about that Super Bowl? What'd you think?
I don't know. I don't know anything about it other than the fact that I couldn't believe the amount of people on the Taylor owners Facebook group that didn't know about playing a guitar strung upside down.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
it blew
yeah,
my
Babyface.
mind.
That was the
Yeah.
whole thing. Yeah.
like
I
yeah.
had someone actually. So what we're in reference to is Babyface played a guitar or early on in the broadcast, and he played a guitar that they had painted, which was dope. That was cool. It was really cool
beautiful.
to see how they did that. But he's lefty, and his guitars are strung righty because he learned how to play upside down, basically taking a right-handed guitar and flipping it over, and that's how he learned how to play. So we made a left-handed guitar, but then we turn it over and string it the way that he learned how to play. So the low strings are on the bottom. I actually had someone email or text me during that and argue with me that it was fake. And because when he was strumming down, he heard the high strings, and strumming up, he heard the low strings, and he was like, "It's fake.
Like,
He's
he
not
doesn't-
playing. He's playing to a track." And I said, "No, it's a lefty strung righty."
Yeah. He doesn't know how to play the right chords. None of them make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, how many people say, yeah, he's not even playing. He has no idea how to play. He's just holding it. Well, he was holding it.
He was
But-
holding it, and Babyface
and
is
he
an
was playing it.
absolute wonderful guitar player.
Yep.
And we did set that whole thing. We didn't set it up. They asked us for a guitar that they could paint for the Super Bowl, and we had no idea that it was going to be that prominent in the broadcast. And it was incredible. But we got a lot of interesting questions about it. So yes,
That was
that is
quite a paint job.
yeah, quite a paint job.
Great
Lefty
paint
strung
job on
righty. Lefty strung righty. So that's what that is. All right, sports, we're done. Evan's question. You guys know how this works. If you win, if you're the first person to answer this question in the feed, email me at primetime@taylorguitars.com and we'll get you your prize. The prize pack today is a nice suede Taylor strap, a trucker hat, which I'm not wearing. I'm wearing a Baltimore Orioles hat for O. A t-shirt, so I'm going to need your t-shirt size, and a cleaning kit. So it's going to come with a string or a little tuner, some cleaner, some rags, etc., etc. And if you're nice, and if you answer it quickly, I'll also throw in a pick tin. Cool? That's a big prize.
I have a question.
You have a question? Yeah.
Can Paul Tobias enter this time?
Nah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure. That's all.
Take that, Paul.
Evan can't answer either. Evan Smith. Yeah, look, I'm ready. Look at these guys. Look, I'm ready.
Bob
You know
Taylor's
the
gone.
rules.
Somebody had it
Paul.
right. The Northwoods. They even answered.
That's so good. The Northwoods. All right, you guys ready for this question? It's such a good one.
Such a good
It's-
one. How long did it
It's
take me to answer this correctly?
14 and a half milliseconds.
Yeah.
All right,
that's
ready?
fast.
And the question is, who designed the preamp for the original Taylor Expression System? Come on, nerds.
I'm watching you, nerds. Let's go.
Come on, nerds.
Don't let me down.
Do.
Nick Miller has it.
Boom.
Yep, Miller has it.
Yep. Wait, do we need the full name?
No.
Nah.
Nope, we all know. We call him by Neve or Rupert Neve. Yes, sir, Nick. You got it. That question was Bob.
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 Yeah, Mr. ES. That's a good one.
Mr. S.
Mystery.
Mr. S.
Is that like mistress?
That's funny.
Like mistress?
Got a K4 right there.
You
Oh,
keep,
there it is.
you keep
Wow,
your
those K4s
stinking
are rad.
shirts.
They're great. You know.
I know. I wish I had one.
Yeah.
All right. Barack Obama. That would have been wild. I didn't even know.
You haven't
work for
played the BOP pickup?
I didn't even know about that. That's pretty amazing. All right. Rupert Neve is the answer. So Nick threw he answered it. Look, he threw Rupert back in there. He's got this.
There
You guys
go.
have been great. This show is fantastic. We're gonna
Thank
do
you
more
guys
of
for
these.
hanging out.
Thank you, Gabe, for spending your birthday with us. Thank you, Tyler, and tell your spouse that we thank her as well. I love it. Thanks for allowing your time. Mike, thanks to Roger for allowing your time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, he's a bit annoyed at me now.
I know
That's
he's
Saw
a
the
bit.
pacing.
I know he's a bit annoyed, but here's the deal. One more time, Daria, because you missed it. One more thing. I got one more thing for all of y'all. Gabriel, we've seen it already, but it's time to watch it again. I'm not going to play the intro. I should have played the intro, but I'm not going to. I'm going to play a happy birthday song from Sergio
Yes.
Hetfield.
Oh, hey, Serge, throw us a riff.
Sure.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gabe. Happy birthday to Gabe. And many more, yeah.
I like the sound of that pickup the best.
Yeah, that pickup was that was the I pickup in my phone.
Is that the ES5?
Yeah. Hey, I think we should on the show about all the pedals and stuff discuss the fart pedal.
The
in
fart
action.
pedal. I mean,
Well, wait, no. What we need to do is, again, somebody brought it up before. I forget who, but I thought it would be great. Put the fart pedal through the Miku pedal, and let's have them fight it out for supremacy.
Wow.
Let's
This
see
is
what
getting
comes
wild.
out of that. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we don't have an ending song for you. Again, Mr. Lund is on a plane. He's flying right now to New York City from the Northwoods, wherever that is. But he's flying there.
where
We
he's from.
appreciate you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. That was the nerdiest show ever. Sergio agrees. Yeah. Did you see this? It's so good. That's how you spell yeah. Birthday, epic birthday song. Epic guitar face. I back that.
yep.
All right, Gabe, thanks so much for hanging out with us. Mike, it's always
Thank you,
great to
guys.
see you. Tyler, you're the best, and I'll see
Thanks,
you in
Scott.
about 32 seconds. And everyone, thanks again for hanging out with us. What is the email to claim the prize? It is, I'm going to write it real quick, Primetime. Oh, my computer hates me. It's Prime. There it is. Oh, we made that? We're smart.
Obviously, we did.
Primetime at TaylorGuitars.com. That's it right there. Hit us up. We appreciate you guys. We'll see you next week. A lot of technical stuff. I know. That was a riot. See ya.
Thanks, nerds.
Bye, nerds.
Bye.